All right, everybody, it is that time. I'm Madcap. This is another video on Raid Shadow Legends. We have some more champion balances, and I have 540 gems plus an ancient shard to give 5 lucky winners. So I'm going to need you to leave your UM code in the comments down below, along with a comment on, do you think the impact of any of these champions makes them better, worse, or push staying exactly the same, specifically Pixnyel, though I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts on all of these champions. So without further ado, let's jump right into the changes. Let's get into the index. By the way, there's an Acrisia 10 times right now, and there's no good void packs. Plarium, people will spend money to get Acrisia. Give us void packs. Okay, so first one we have right off the bat, let's talk about Pixnyel. Let's bring this up on the screen here. Pixnyel right here. So there's a lot of changes going on. Her A1, first off, currently has a 30% bookable to 50% chance of placing a perfect veil on the champion with the lowest HP. Can't place it on herself. Now it just says places a perfect veil on the buff for one turn of the ally with the lowest HP. Doesn't say you can't put it on herself anymore. And it's places, so does this mean the 3, 5, and 7 just disappeared? It's only 3 books. That would be beautiful. Less books on this champion makes her more viable. We'll see. They'll probably just add damage and we'll still have all the books she needs. So that's, we'll see how that goes. A2, damage, the Icicle Barrage, increased damage. We'll see what that means. Each hit has a 30% chance of placing a freeze debuff for one turn. It's 100% if it hits them 2 times. Used to be 5 times at random. Now it's an AoE with an 80 bookable to 100% chance of placing a freeze. So now it's a guaranteed AoE freeze. Not guaranteed. It's not. You can still be resisted and stuff, but yeah, I mean that just makes it better. It was stupid before. It was useless. Now it's useful. Again, 7 books to be useful. But we'll see how that works. Now the passive is the biggest change. Currently, the passive is whenever an enemy places a freeze debuff, has a 50% of stealing, 35% chance of filling, removes any freeze debuffs from this champion at the start of every turn, and there is a 15% buff increase chance. Now it is it has a cooldown of 5 to 2 win books, so it's 3 books on the cooldown. The passive is immune to freeze debuffs. Fills this champion's turn meter by 25% every time an ally receives a freeze debuff. The active effect at the end of each enemy turn removes all freeze debuffs from all allies. If there's multiple, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So, and then aura changes from an 80 arena to 60 all battles. So let's talk about this passive, because how this passive is implemented depends on how good she'll be. So assume that the cooldown is on both the active and the passive effect, and this ability is somewhat trash. Now, again, I'm not 100% on this. So let me just go through a scenario. Assuming the cooldown's on both the passive and active, you have Arbiter on your team, you're going up against a Torment, you brought Pixnyel in. Arbiter lands, it's just you have the worst luck. Your whole team gets frozen by Arbiter's turn meter boost. But Arbiter also is putting an increased attack. So the boost happens, your whole team's frozen, but she's immune to freeze. So it cleanses her, puts the skill on cooldown, and then fills this champion's turn meter by 100%. So she's gonna go next, no matter what, no matter how fast she is. I mean, potentially there could be people over 100%, but this ability would probably, because everyone on your team got frozen, right, including yourself. Oh, she's immune, so maybe it's 75% turn meter boost. Okay, but now it's on cooldown. So now Arbiter puts the increased attack. And you just worst luck ever, you all get frozen again. Right? Well, 3 of them are already frozen, so you get frozen. So everyone else is still frozen at this point, but you get frozen. So does that boost? That doesn't boost your turn meter because it's on cooldown. And then because this is on cooldown, the active effect does not proc. Now, I don't think that that's how this works. But we gotta be prepared for that scenario because it is Plarium. How I think this will likely be is the passive effect will not have a cooldown. The cooldown will be strictly on the active effect. The reason why I say we have to be prepared for it is because Foley has a passive effect that goes on cooldown. So he can actually get refrozen in that exact same scenario, which is why I think there's a possibility that it works like that on this. So passive effect, not on cooldown. Active effect it does have a cooldown. So in that case, the passive effect is she's immune to freeze debuffs. So Arbiter, turn meter boost, your whole team gets frozen, she's immune, so it's 3 people frozen. Then she puts the increased attack, who cares? They're already frozen. Now, they might get refrozen, which would be even cooler because that means you're getting all that extra turn meter. But either way, you're boosted by 25%. You're going next. Then, Arbiter ends her turn, which is the active effect. At the end of each enemy or ally turn, removes all freeze debuffs from all allies. So now it's your turn. You've got 3 frozen enemies. This effect, before you even take your turn, removes all the debuffs. So now everyone is unfrozen. Pixnyel gets to go because she just got 75% turn meter. She uses her AoE freeze, freezes the enemy team. Bam. Good scenario, right? Let's take scenario 2. Arbiter takes her turn. You're all in immunity. Nothing happens. So her active doesn't go on cooldown. You play it out your turns. Now you're hitting them. You run through your immunity. You hit him, and one of your champions gets frozen. Right, because of frost gear or passive or whatever the case may be. They're frozen. Active effect at the end of that ally's turn because, for example, Kandrafon hit. He got frozen after hitting. And then her passive kicks because that's the end of his turn and unfreezes him. Kind of less impactful because he's already taken his turn. But it's still good. But now it's on cooldown. So the next person hits that same person who's got a frost set on. They're frozen. Too bad. You got to wait 2 turns when fully booked. So I think that's pretty powerful if that's the way it works. The ability to get a passive cleanse on 1 round of freezes, plus being immune 100% to the time to yourself and getting that turn meter boost would be impactful. However, if they did code it like the passive effect goes on cooldown also, like Foley, right? Let's take a look at Foley. Maybe we can see if there's a hint as to which way it'll be. Foley is a dark elf. Now, for those who don't have Foley, don't know about Foley, his passive, whenever an enemy places stun, freeze, sleep, or provoke on this champion, instantly removes the buff and then heals this champion by 20% of the max HP and boosts their turn meter by 50%. But then they can get cooled again, and this has a cooldown of 3 turns. So what happens is it removes the freeze, and then Arbiter refreezes him because she's putting a turn meter boost and an active buff. He gets refrozen, and it wastes it. It wastes his turn. So hopefully it's not implemented like that. This also should not be. This should be throughout the whole thing. It should be at the end of the turn. And maybe that's the crux. Maybe that's why Pixnyel's better. So overall, I think so if you don't care about books, I think Pixnyel now is a very strong champion. I still don't think Freeze is out there enough, but hey, Frost champion, Faction Wars 21, depending, you might want to use her. Arena, she could be very impactful now, but those books are still pretty crazy. So if you don't have those books available to you, then she's still not going to be very good, in my opinion. But if you do have the books available to you and you're not worried about it, this could be very strong. This could be a very strong among the whales and high spenders because they're willing to put 18 books into something that they feel benefits them. So I'm curious about that. All right. Next champion is Belanor. Belanor just got the best buff in the game, by the way. So Belanor, if you don't know, already has this 3-turn out the can. You just pulled him, you level him to 60, you don't have to put any books into him, and this happens. Now, you want to put books into him because this skill is very strong. On a 3-turn cooldown when booked, very strong, hits very hard. And even this hits hard and puts an increased crit rate. And if you do this right with with buff extenders on your team as part of a comp, then you can actually use this like in the clan boss with a couple buff extenders. You can use like Godseeker and Krisk, Belanor, say Zavia, why not? We'll talk about that in a minute, and a fifth, and Valkyrie. I don't know, I'm just putting names in a hat right now. But then you can actually build that whole team around this increased crit rate because you're extending twice so that you'll always have it up. Plus with the counterattacks, it'll keep refreshing it. So that's where he works really well, is if you have a counterattack team, he can keep refreshing that increased crit rate. So you can build your whole team to actually 45%, right? Or 46%, because he has a 24% increased crit rate. So you put him as your lead, and you've got this, which is another 30, which is 54% crit rate before you start building. Remember, you get 15 on every champion to start. That's pretty impactful. That's how you build Belanor anyway for your clan boss. Now it's an AoE, which means this guy out of the box can be used anywhere you need debuffs. He's going to be really good for every type of speedrun, I think, possible as an option, other than Venus, other than Lydia. Where he doesn't really do big is he doesn't have a lot, he just has the single buff. So he has a buff, and everyone buff here, and then the buff here. So Seer comps probably, you got to make sure you have other people bringing those buffs, so it's maybe less impactful. But I'd say, you know, he's right up there with Draco and Lydia and Venus as far as use now because it's AoE. Very, very strong. Very strong. Now, the second thing is he now activates his overkill on tactical partner. This is a big deal because this hits okay. This hits for a lot. So now you're basically getting his A3 twice. Or, well, not quite twice. This is a 3-turn. This is a 4-turn. But you're getting, you know what I mean. And we'll activate Poison Rain. So if these two are together, I see a scenario where these two together are very, very strong in like Dragon speedruns, level 25, using Bomb. Because this guy now has an AoE, which means you can do him, Calvalax, Tutor, or him, Calvalax, Zavia. You need maybe him, Calvalax, Taurus, Zavia can bomb, reset with Kaimar or Renegade. Next wave, same thing. You don't see before, it was only a single hit, so Zavia would have to use her spread effect in order to make that work. Now, that doesn't matter. The other thing you can do is if you can get 2 cycles on the speed run, Zavia can spread the poison, so you only have, say, a Calvalax, or a 4-turn, you know, whoever. Zavia can spread those buffs, then he can put the decreased defense and weaken, and then Zavia goes on her 2nd turn, so you have fast Zavia, she can explode it, and then Kaimar resets at the start of the round 2. So there's way more options. I like this change because there's way more options surrounding it. So he's really good with Zavia, I think. And I want to see them in the clan boss. I don't have Belanor. I wish I did, because I'd really like to test what he can do in the clan boss, especially post these changes with Zavia. I would totally book both of them and give them a try, because I think that this A3 hits so hard, and getting an extra turn on that A3 plus all the things you can do. Belanor is a hidden, I don't think so hidden anymore, Void Affinity gem. So very strong abilities, very strong changes. Alika. Now this one confuses me. So Alika is a barbarian. One of my favorite barbarians. One of the hardest hitting champions in the game. This A2 is one of the hardest hitting epic games. Now, let me prefix this. When I say that, I mean without mechanic. So, for example, Crypt Witch hits like, or not Crypt Witch, sorry. Corpse Collector? Not Corpse Collector, the other one that looks like her. The one where the more debuffs on her, the harder she hits. She might be the hardest hitting epic in the game, but you have to have debuffs on her. You have to load her up with self-poisons, with Gerp Tucker, stuff like this. This, you just have to hit. That's what I mean. This is the hardest hitting out of the box, if you want to put it that way. When she gets to do this, it hits really hard. It's got a really strong multiplier, and it ignores 50% of the defense if their max HP is higher than this champion's, which it usually is. Very strong ability, especially in PvE, where obviously because they expand the levels of the enemy, they're always going to have higher HP. So this is a very strong skill. But this is the skill they changed, which currently increases the cooldowns of all enemy skills by 1 turn. They've changed it to 2 turns. Now, I have 2 scenarios in my head. If her 1-turn cooldown resets by the time the enemy takes a turn. So she hits everyone, everyone's got a 1-turn cooldown, the enemy goes, but before it goes, it ticks it down to 1, so it ends up being 0 and is useless. By changing that to 2, does that mean they effectively get a 1-turn cooldown? I don't think so. I think this still requires the skill to be on cooldown, which means it's still not very strong. I would still rather build her for damage, and this is just a happy accident, than try to build around this, because to me, it just isn't very, in of itself, is not very impactful. Now, where you could use it is you could use her with Basher. And then, hey, in Arena, I might try that. Basher sets it on cooldown. She extended by 2 turns, so now it's a 3-turn on the enemy. Plus, she hits really hard. That A3 is going to do some damage. They only have their A1, so you have like Krisk with you, so you can withstand some of the incoming damage. Then you can use her A2 just to delete people. It's going to be on a 2-turn cooldown, so she's probably going to get to use that twice before you're in trouble. I think there's possibilities. I think there's possibilities, but that's a very unique situation. So I don't know if this is any impact at all. Let me just check Belanor or Belanor. Did I say Belanor? Let me check Basher for a second. It's Basher who I meant. If I said Belanor the very first time, I've got it in my head. But Basher, where are you? Basher is a skinwalker, so probably won't find him in Organ Tribes. Basher. So Bashers. Oh, see? Yes. So this is good. So this does make him Basher, because I thought this said this initiates the cooldown. So no, okay, this is fine. Yeah, she's just another Basher. She's a better Basher, except for she's affinity. Okay, no, I take that back. That's very strong. It's very strong. They might be watching my videos, because that's what I said, is they needed to do this. Okay, so it does work like that. So it was putting it up by 1 turn, but then the enemy would take a turn, and it would go to 0 before the enemy took the turn. Now it's 2 turns, so it works exactly like Bashers. It's an AoE, 100% equal to Bashers. Basher hits hard, she hits way harder. So, yeah, very strong. Also, she's got one of the strongest, hardest hitting A1s in the game if she gets that extra hit, because her multipliers on that 1 hit are among the best, and the second hit is double that, obviously. And it's a 50% chance booked. Huh. Okay, yeah, Alika's really good. That makes that skill usable, which is good. Thank you. About time. They're watching my videos, fam. I think they're actually watching my videos. Hi, Plarium. Might I suggest you fix more champions? Very nice. Okay. Before we get into the final one, just in case they are watching, Undead Horde, Suzerain, this here. Make this the same as Belanor and Venus and stuff. Keep it on a 4 turn, so it's not quite as good, but it should place both the weak and decreased defense at 100%, not 75%. This is just silly. Just thought I'd mention that. Alright, the final change is Crypt Witch. Now, I'm really kind of interested about this one. Only because Knight's Revenant can still be a very tough thing to finish. Getting damage dealers that are survivable, all this. There used to be no decreased defense. So I actually used Crypt Witch to 3-star this. Crypt Witch was on my team to 3-star it. Without Rector Drath, also, by the way. Just subtle flex. Very difficult to do. Caused a lot of pain, anger, and tears. But they've debuffed since then. They've reduced they've eased up how hard it is. But Crypt Witch here. So this one here used to be 2 times at random. Now it's 3 times at random, and it ignores 15% defense. So that's just good. It's just objectively makes her better. Still not my first choice with all the new champions that they've added to Knight's Rev, but low spend, free to play, great. But this one here might actually make her. I might put her in my regular rotation for it, because she's not putting buffs up, which you always worry about with the boss. This will be good at decreased defense on the boss, right? Because it doesn't matter if it's how many times at random. Plus, it's going to hit the boss a lot harder a 3rd time, and ignores defense. But this here, if the target will ignore 50% of the target's defense if the target is faster than this champion, was silly, because who's going to build a champion that slow? They've swapped it. Now it ignores 50% if this champion is faster than the target, which makes this a very strong hard-hitting skill. I mean, we'll test it. We'll test it when it gets out there. But I'm excited to see the level of damage Crypt Witch does. She might just be a hidden gem for Faction Wars 21, and who knows? Maybe other places. A single target, deletion of an enemy is never a bad thing. So I'm very cautiously optimistic on how this will work. But excited to try it out in the real world once that comes in. So those are all the changes. As a reminder, we are giving away 540 gems, so please subscribe. You have to be subscribed in order to win. Then place your UM code in the comments down below, along with what do you think of these? Are any of these, what do you think of each of the champions? Pick your champion or tell me about them all. I don't care. Let me know what you think about the changes. That's all I have for you today. Thank you for watching the video. Please be kind, be safe, and we'll see you in the next one.